Hi, it's Wasabi. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a review of the new Italian tank destroyer line. We're going to focus on the Tier 8 premium tank destroyer that's being released as this video comes out. It's known as the SMV Vipera, otherwise known as a Viper in English, and it's classified as an assault tank destroyer. Now that's based on the armor profile. So let's focus on that first. So the hull armor at the front is 210 millimeters, the side armor 100 millimeters, and the rear is 50. And on the turret, it's 275 millimeters. So you can see the actual armor plate thickness here. So really quite thick. And we assume that the gun mantlet also is just as strong. Well, I don't have the actual details there. But the sides of the turret are 160 and the rear is 50 millimeters. So the interesting thing is the basically the overmatch capability. It gives you a little bit of side scraping ability. I wouldn't put it too far, but with 100 millimeters you'd have to have a 300 millimeter gun to overmatch it on the side. And the main weakness, we would say, there's no cupola, but this frontal segment of the roof here is 40 millimeters, so that can be overmatched by guns of 120 millimeters or above. So your standard Soviet guns at Tier 8 being 122 millimeters gives you the ability to overmatch just by shooting at this part of the roof. So even though it's got 10 degrees of gun depression, which is pretty good, if you're not really utilizing the full depression, you can still overmatch this part of the roof because it's sloping down basically. So you've got to basically try and get as much gun depression out of it as possible to basically obscure that part, and that will give you the most protection. So that's probably the best thing we can say about the armor. Now, one thing about the armor, of course, is it's pretty thick at the front, and that makes it heavy. The engine power is relatively low at 600 horsepower, and therefore the specific power is 11.6, which is pretty low. So therefore you've got a top speed of 30 kilometers per hour and a reversing of 12. So reverse of 12 is not too bad, but 30 is really quite slow going across ground. So you might consider adding a turbo. Although, as you can see, we've focused on a couple of other characteristics here with the equipment that we've loaded. So let's have a look at the firepower side of it, which is probably just as important and probably more important, given that you need to sort of make your mark on the battle. So we've got three types of ammunition. We've got the standard ammunition is AP, and with an average damage of 400, which is quite nice, and that's out of a 120 millimeter gun. Now, average pen for this round is 220 at the closest range down to 200, and a shell velocity of 975, which is sort of average, but the premium brand is APCR, so you get a slightly better shell velocity, not fantastic, but 1150, and that improves the pen to 264 down to 240. And the other interesting thing, the HE, which seems to be a feature of the more modern tanks coming into the game, if you've got penetration of 120, which is pretty good for an HE shell, and average damage there goes up to 500, and a shell velocity of 900 plus. So that gives you the opportunity to shoot at some soft-skinned vehicles and get some extra damage out of that without losing the ability to pen. So let's have a look at the rest of the gun though. Now, rate of fire. So this is a 5-shot auto loader. Takes, in this particular guise with the crew skills and the equipment we've got loaded, it's a 31.65 second reload time for the whole magazine, and then you've got 6 seconds between the shells. So you fire once and then you've got 6 seconds, and then you can fire the next one until you have used your 5 rounds, and then it loads the whole magazine. So it's not an auto reloader like the Italian medium and heavy tanks have got. It's an auto loader, so you've got to load the whole magazine and wait for the magazine to empty before you reload. Other characteristics here in terms of the performance, the gun traverse speed is 20 degrees per second. as we talked about before, 45 degrees traverse of the turret on either side of the hull, 10 degrees of depression and 20 degrees elevation. That's quite good, but the aiming time is relatively high, 2.4 seconds. That's actually without any aids, it's about 2.8 something seconds, and that's why we've added a gun laying drive and also improved aiming, and that's also related to the dispersion. So standard dispersion is 0.46. So that's again why we've added improved aiming here to reduce the aiming circle size, and we've got that down to 0.35, and we've added food, and we've got brothers in arms operating as well. So all of that's to try and improve the gun handling side of it. You can see the average DPM has actually only gone up to 2100 hit points per minute, so not all that fantastic. So other things we can tell you, mobility we've sort of touched on is pretty average, like a heavy tank. And concealment, not fantastic again, it's a pretty big, heavy tank destroyer. So, but with cruise skills and with the camo on the tank, we've got that up to 32 for stationary and 20.8 for moving, which is, you know, reasonable, sort of in medium tank territory, nothing special. The other sort of letdown is the view range. So standard view range is 360, and we've got that up to 405, and that's with the commander having radio operator skills, so we've put situational awareness on the commander, and then of course the food and other crew skills, so it's got that up to 405. So not fantastic, but so you're not going to spot a lot of targets yourself. You're going to really rely on other tanks doing the spotting for you, and with that gun dispersion, you probably don't want to be too far away anyway. But yeah, playing probably at the edge of your view range is going to be again the standard feature of this tank, I would say. All right, so that's pretty much as we want to tell you about the tank destroyer itself. You probably want to have a look at some gameplay, so we'll organise some now, and we'll come back and do a summary at the end of that. Okay, sorry, we don't have actual gameplay at the moment, but what I did was organise a quick training room, and I'm going to have a IS-6 on the other side, and we're going to just test the armour and the overmatch of the turret. And I picked the IS-6 partly because it's got one of the weakest guns at tier 8, just to see that the overmatch actually works. It's not related to pen, and also test the hull down capability of that. So let's go into that and give you a few tips about it. I'm just going to have a look at the turret rotation first, and then we'll move to the battle area on the map. I've just got it in wide angle view at the moment, no mini-map, etc. So this is the turret rotation, so 45 degrees on each side, and when you hit the limit, the tank will start rotating with the turret, so something to be careful of. If you don't want it to rotate the tank hull, then you'll need to hold down the X key while you're doing that. Alright, we'll fast forward to the area. Let's just put the information back on. You see 30 k's across the ground, and as we start to go up the hill, it starts to get slower and slower. So only doing 20 k's now, so we don't have a turbo on this. Might be something to consider. At the moment, I've got gun laying drive, and 3 seconds aim time, which is currently around 2.6 with the GLD and the cruise skills, could be brought down a bit further. And then you could basically decide to take the GLD out and swap it for turbo, given that there's 6 seconds between shots, and you should be fully aimed in between the shots if you're stationary. So that's just something to consider. Alright, so there's the opponent. We've got an IS-6, and we're just going to test, can we overmatch the roof of the IS-6, but more also to allow the IS-6 to fire back at us. And I think that one went into the dirt, so let's try and fire another one. Didn't get any reaction at that one, so I'm not sure where that one went as well. It could have gone in the dirt. We've got about half the reticles on the dirt here, so we're hull down as we can get, just getting the top of the target not exposing much of our hull, as you'll see in the other video. And there we go. That's gone through the top part of the roof, so there was a penetration. There we go, and that's the I-6 shooting our top of the turret, which will just give you that vision of. There we go, there's that nice big wedge on the top of the turret there. Now we're just moving up to a different position here, so we can shoot at the bottom of the I-6. So that's the lower hull. And this is standard rounds here, so we're not penetrating the front, but we're going to try and shoot the top of the turret, which we should be able to do now. There we go. So that was successful. But now the R6 is going to be able to shoot back and penetrate the top of our turret again. Just seeing him aiming. Well, that one missed completely. Right, and sorry, just re-aiming here. So just checking out the reticle. So it's red right across the front of the turret, red on the side of the turret, but the only spot we got green is the top of the turret right there. So there you go, goes through there. All right, so that's probably enough. Let's go back to the Vipera view. All right, that's the next overmatch. So you can see it's just gone straight through that front part of the turret armour, the first slope part. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just relocate to a different part of the hill to try and get a hull down position. Okay, so what do we think of this vehicle? All right, well, I think it fits in with the overall line of the Italian TDs, particularly the ones from Tier 7 and above. Standard use of the gun. Gun is quite reasonable. Turret front armour is pretty strong. As you can see, the top part of the turret armour needs to be protected, as well as the lower front hull. But you can see the sides of the turret when you're in the right position can deflect, and yeah, you can basically bounce shots from certainly the same tier tanks. I think the higher tier tanks will be able to go through the front, particularly tier 10, so just be careful. Probably best tactics would be to have someone spotting for you and be able to shoot at the edge of the view range so that you're not going to be spotted while you're shooting, and that will obviously keep your health through the game as much as possible. But overall, I think, yeah, quite worth it. It's just come out in the premium shop, so you can have a look at the prices there. Certainly be useful as a crew trainer, but also as a vehicle in its own right. So I think it'll stand up with other TDs like the Scorpion and even the SU-130 PM, all with punchy guns. Probably bigger alpha on those guns slightly, but 400 alpha with a 5-shot auto loader, 2,000 damage in a clip. That's pretty reasonable. All right, so hopefully you like the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, if you're watching this, that's something I'd like you to do. And come back to the channel later. We'll have some more great content. Thanks very much for watching.